Are you tired of feeling drained by constant overthinking, pointless arguments, and emotional chaos you didn't ask for? Every time you react without control, explain yourself too much, or let someone else's noise into your mind, you lose power. And most men don't even realize it. But here's the truth. Power isn't loud. Real strength is built in silence, in clarity, in discipline. Stoic philosophy teaches that you don't need to control the world. You only need to master your mind. And that mastery begins with a decision. Decide today, not tomorrow, not next week. Decide to think less, talk less, and focus only on what truly matters. Because if you don't, someone else will think for you, speak over you, and drain you with distractions that don't deserve your energy. You are not the only one tired of mental noise, emotional reactivity, and living on autopilot. Thousands of men are silently asking, how do I get my strength back? This video is your answer. You'll learn how to reclaim your focus, protect your energy, and cultivate silent power through stoic emotional control, mental clarity, and discipline. No hype, no fluff, just timeless principles that transform real men. If that speaks to you, like this video, subscribe for more stoic strength, and share it with a man who needs to hear this today. Let's begin. Let's take your power back. One quiet decision at a time. 1. Clear your mind, own your focus. You don't need more thoughts. You need fewer distractions. Less noise, less mental clutter. Most men believe that thinking harder means being smarter, being in control. But often the opposite is true. The more you think, the more you spiral. You imagine problems that don't exist, react to threats that never arrive, and waste your energy trying to predict outcomes that aren't yours to control. It's not intelligence, it's exhaustion disguised as over-responsibility. And that's the trap, confusing noise for clarity, motion for direction. You start waking up tired, not because your body is weak, but because your mind has never stopped running. Your focus is scattered, your peace hijacked. You scroll through distractions, jump between tasks, and fill silence with overthinking. You replay conversations from 2 days ago. You rehearse battles that will never happen. In trying to be ready for everything, you end up being present for nothing. Stoicism breaks that loop. It reminds you of something modern life buries under pressure. Not every thought is worth your attention. Thoughts are not facts. They're mental weather, passing clouds, not permanent truths. Just because your mind says you're failing doesn't make it real. Just because it whispers you'll never be good enough doesn't mean you have to believe it. The Stoics teach us to observe our thoughts, not obey them. You can say, that thought appeared, without making it your identity. Take a moment and picture this. You're standing in a crowded subway, trains flying by every few minutes. Some are quiet, some loud, some graffitied with shame, fear, or anger. But you don't have to board every train. You can stay on the platform. You can watch them pass. And the more you practice this, the less likely you are to jump on the wrong one. That's what clarity looks like, not the absence of thoughts, but the discipline to let them come and go without being carried away. This isn't just theory. It's training, practical, powerful, and deeply personal. Start by noticing your internal language. Change, I am a failure, to I'm having the thought that I am a failure. That tiny shift creates distance. It stops your identity from merging with your emotions. Next, pause when a thought demands action. Ask, is this useful? Is this real? Or is this just residue, leftover noise from something I don't need to carry anymore? You don't need to eliminate every thought. You need to master which ones get your energy. That's mental clarity. That's a quiet power. Mindfulness isn't just meditation on a mat. It's the decision to redirect your attention in the middle of chaos. It's focusing on your breath instead of your anger. It's noticing your surroundings when anxiety tries to pull you inward. You build it like a muscle, by catching yourself, by redirecting, by choosing again and again to return to now. Because once the mind is clear, your focus sharpens. And when your focus sharpens, everything changes. You stop chasing noise and start building depth. You no longer react, you respond. You no longer panic, you plan. You no longer drown in thought, you move with precision. That's what it means to take your power back. Not louder, but quieter. Not faster, but sharper. And it all starts the moment you stop believing every thought that appears and start choosing the ones worth keeping. 2. Speak less, command more. Better to trip with the feet than with the tongue. Zeno of Citium. What Zeno meant is simple but brutal in its truth. A physical stumble can be recovered from. A verbal one can cost you respect, relationships, and control. Words, once spoken, can't be taken back. They echo, they wound, they reveal more about your insecurity than your strength. And in moments of emotion, they often betray you. That's why the Stoics placed such high value on silence, not as absence but as presence under control. In a world addicted to noise, silence is rebellion. Everywhere you turn, someone is talking, posting, reacting, trying to prove their value with volume. We've been conditioned to believe that those who speak the most know the most, that speed equals intelligence, that silence is weakness. But the truth is far quieter. You don't gain respect by being loud. You gain it by knowing when to say nothing. Speaking less isn't about being passive. It's about being intentional. It's a shift from reaction to precision. The problem is, many men mistake immediate response for strength. They interrupt, they defend, they explain, but behind every impulsive word is a silent insecurity, an urge to be seen, validated, understood. And ironically, the more you speak to be heard, the less seriously people take you. Stoicism teaches something entirely different. The wise man, according to Epictetus, is slow to speak and quick to understand. He doesn't enter every debate, he doesn't rush to reply. His silence isn't absence, it's strategy. When you say less, your presence speaks more. It's the energy in the room when you stay calm while others argue. It's the strength behind a still face while chaos erupts around you. It's the quiet man everyone watches, because they know when he does speak, it will matter. Think of a high-stakes meeting. A younger man jumps in, cutting people off to prove he belongs. Another man leans back, listens, and observes. He speaks once, calmly, clearly, without urgency, and the room leans forward. That's the kind of authority words can't buy. That's the kind of respect silence earns. But speaking less isn't just a tactic, it's discipline. It means resisting the urge to defend your ego when someone throws shade. It means not replying to the comment designed to provoke you. It means holding space instead of filling every pause with explanation. This takes training. You start by catching yourself in the impulse. The next time someone misunderstands you, don't clarify. Let them. The next time someone provokes you, don't react. Let silence respond. You'll notice something shift. People will start listening more carefully. Your words will carry more weight. You'll feel less drained, less reactive, more in control. Why? Because you're no longer giving your energy away through pointless speech. You're reclaiming your presence. And presence is power. There's another layer. Speaking less also creates space for listening. Real listening, not just waiting to reply. Most men never develop this skill. But when you listen deeply, you read under the words. You spot insecurity behind arrogance. You hear manipulation hiding under charm. And that gives you a quiet leverage. You're no longer reacting to surface noise. You're reading the game beneath it. So practice restraint. Train your mouth to move only when the message matters. Let your body language, your eye contact, your consistency speak volumes before your voice ever does. The fewer words you use, the more impact each one has. And when you do speak, make it deliberate, make it grounded, make it real. That's how you command without shouting. That's how you influence without explaining. And that's how you build quiet, unshakable respect in a loud, chaotic world. Speak less, not because you're afraid, but because you've decided to conserve your power. Let everyone else fill the room with noise. You stay still, stay sharp, and let silence work for you. 3. Pause before you react. A man's downfall rarely begins with what was done to him. It begins with how he chose to react. Anger, impulse, retaliation. These are the reflexes that destroy peace faster than any enemy. Reaction is the body's defense against discomfort, but too often it becomes a self-inflicted wound. Most men are trained to respond instantly. Cut off in conversation, they jump back in. Challenged online, they clap back. Disrespected, they raise their voice. But speed doesn't equal strength. In fact, speed often exposes your weakness. To pause is not to freeze. To pause is to lead. It's the subtle moment where emotion rushes forward and you choose not to be its slave. That's the power most people never learn to access. The difference between a man who reacts and a man who pauses is like the difference between a wild horse and a trained one. Both have energy, but only one has control. The Stoics taught that reaction is where suffering hides. The event itself holds no power. Your interpretation creates the pain. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. He ruled an empire but never let anger rule him. He reminded himself daily, you cannot control what others do, only how you respond. That's where your freedom lies. Not in changing the storm, but in remaining calm while it passes. Imagine standing in a crowded marketplace. Someone bumps into you hard, spills your coffee, and mutters something under their breath. Your fist clenches, your jaw tightens. Every part of you wants to fire back, but then a pause, a breath, a choice. You see clearly. They're in a rush, consumed by their own mess, not yours. You step aside, you walk on, and just like that, you win a battle no one else saw. That's not weakness. That's a strength invisible to the untrained eye. Pausing doesn't make you a coward. It makes you a strategist. When you don't react immediately, you shift the balance of power. You see the full picture. You notice what's really going on beneath the surface. And most of all, you protect your energy. Because reaction is expensive. It drains mental clarity, steals emotional stability, and often leads to actions you regret. That's the cost of being impulsive. Every time you pause, you train your nervous system. You teach your body to stay calm under pressure. You rewire the part of your brain that's used to panic and push back. And over time, you stop being dragged by emotion and start directing it. This is the beginning of Stoic emotional control. Not suppression, but redirection. Not bottling up, but building inner strength that doesn't need an audience. To put it into practice, start small. Pause before you answer the next rude comment. Pause before sending that email you wrote in frustration. Pause when your partner or colleague strikes a nerve. Breathe. Name the emotion. Let it pass like a wave without letting it knock you down. Each pause is a statement. I'm not ruled by this. I'm not handing over my power today. A storm doesn't last forever. The stronger the wind, the deeper your roots must grow. When you choose to pause, you're not avoiding the moment, you're owning it. Quietly, completely. No explanation, no explosion, just presence. That's how you stop reacting and start leading. Not with noise, but with calm authority built on practiced control. And that control begins the moment you decide not to let anyone else dictate your next move. 4. Choose what deserves your energy. How many battles have you fought in your mind today that no one else even knows about? That comment someone made, that look someone gave, that situation you couldn't control. You burn through your mental energy trying to fix, prove, explain, defend, until you're left drained, frustrated, and quietly angry at the world. The truth is, you don't lack strength. You're just giving it away to things that don't deserve it. Most men never stop to filter where their energy goes. They react to every opinion, respond to every challenge, and get pulled into every emotional current like a boat without an anchor. But life doesn't reward emotional reactivity. It rewards precision. Power isn't about having more to give. It's about knowing where not to give it. Stoicism teaches a sharp distinction between what you can control and what you can't. What lies within you, your actions, your mindset, your attention, that's your domain. Everything else, that belongs to the world. And the more you try to micromanage what doesn't belong to you, the more chaos you invite into your life. Marcus Aurelius wasn't obsessed with being liked, understood, or approved. He focused on staying true to his principles in the middle of constant noise and politics. His peace came not from what he gained, but from what he refused to waste his attention on. Picture yourself as a man standing on a narrow bridge. On either side, people are throwing ropes, arguments, gossip, manipulation, misunderstandings, fake urgency. Every time you grab one, you lose balance. Every rope is a distraction dressed up as something important. But you don't have to catch them all. You don't have to respond to every tug. You only need to walk forward, eyes ahead, feet steady. That's how you cross without falling. This isn't about avoiding life. It's about taking responsibility for your focus. You're not meant to be available for every drama. You're not built to respond to every emotional signal the world throws at you. Your energy is a limited resource, and if you keep spending it on the wrong things, you'll have nothing left for what truly matters: your mission, your peace, your growth. So start cutting the weight. You don't need to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You don't need to fight battles that end in more noise than clarity. You don't need to validate your value through reaction. The next time someone disrespects you, pause. Ask, is this worth my peace? The next time someone demands a piece of your attention, ask, does this align with the man I'm becoming? When you start filtering your responses, you stop leaking power. You move with more calm. You feel lighter, sharper. You begin to sense the difference between noise and necessity. That's when focus returns. That's when mental clarity comes back online. And to anchor the shift, build a simple ritual. Before you speak, act, or engage, breathe and ask, is this worth the cost? If it's not, walk away, in silence, without guilt. Because sometimes the strongest response is no response. And sometimes the most powerful energy is the one you never give out. Protect what's sacred. Guard what's limited. Choose every day where your strength goes. Not everyone deserves access to the man you're becoming. 5. Protect your mind from noise. You must not give way to desire and anger, for they do not obey reason. Seneca. The most powerful man in the room is not the one who speaks loudest, but the one who hears only what's worth hearing. Mental strength doesn't begin with motivation. It begins with what you allow into your mind. In today's world, distraction is disguised as connection, and emotional chaos often comes wrapped in urgency, updates, and opinions. Every piece of input, whether from a screen, a stranger, or your own self-talk, is either strengthening you or draining you. Noise is no longer just sound. It's the overload of irrelevant information, the constant flood of other people's anxieties, and the subtle pressure to respond to things that don't actually concern you. Most men live in this storm without realizing it. They carry mental weight that was never theirs to hold. They open their day with a scroll and end it with a thread of thoughts not even their own. No wonder they feel scattered, anxious, and tired, without ever lifting a finger. Stoicism offers a brutal but liberating truth. You are not obligated to consume everything presented to you. You are not meant to carry the noise of the world inside your skull. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, but he wrote more about mental clarity than conquest. He knew that without inner stillness, no external victory meant anything. What you allow into your mental space either sharpens your focus or blurs your purpose. Think of your mind as a clear pool. Every headline, notification, toxic conversation, or internal complaint is like a stone thrown into the water. One by one, they ripple, they disturb, and soon you can't see the bottom anymore. Now imagine the difference if you began to guard that pool, if you stopped letting people toss their chaos into it. The water would settle, the reflection would return, you'd start to see clearly again. This clarity doesn't come from escape, it comes from discipline. Begin by questioning your inputs. Do you need to read the news 3 times a day? Do you need to reply to every message instantly? Do you need to keep listening to people who only complain? Your peace isn't passive, it's protected. That means setting limits. That means muting the loud but irrelevant. That means recognizing which conversations, apps, and thoughts create noise, and choosing silence instead. A practical place to start. Create intentional space. In the morning, don't open your phone for the first 30 minutes. Let your mind wake up before the world invades it. During the day, take a 5-minute silence resets. No talking, no scrolling, just presence. At night, write down what's yours to carry and what's not. This small act alone clears more space than any digital detox trend. Because the truth is, your attention is sacred. What you focus on, you empower. What you consume, you become. And if you let the noise decide for you, you'll never hear your own voice. You'll be a man moving fast, but going nowhere. Stoicism doesn't just teach us to survive the noise, it teaches us to rise above it, to filter, to choose, to train the mind to remain still even as the world spins faster. From this stillness comes clarity, from clarity, direction, and from direction, quiet strength that no volume can imitate. Start today. Guard the gates of your mind. Be selective with what you hear, what you see, and who you allow inside your peace. In silence, you don't lose connection, you recover control, and in that control, you find your edge. 6. Let go of needing to be understood. You won't find peace in being understood by everyone. You'll find it in no longer needing to be. The need to explain, to be validated, to clear your name, these are quiet chains that keep men stuck in battles that never end. The desire to be seen for who you truly are is natural. But when it becomes a requirement for emotional stability, it turns into a trap, a powerful one. Because the moment your peace depends on someone else's understanding, you've handed over control of your inner life. Most men don't realize how much they're chasing emotional clarity from people who don't even know themselves. They justify their past. They clarify their tone. They replay conversations in their heads, crafting better versions of what they could have said. And underneath it all is one question they're afraid to ask. What if they never understand me, and I choose to be okay with that? The Stoics already answered it. You do what's right, you speak the truth as best as you can, and then you detach. Epictetus reminded his students, we are responsible for our intentions, not for how others interpret them. You act with integrity. You let go of the outcome. That's where real freedom begins. Imagine you're standing in a room full of fog. You try to explain your thoughts to someone across the space, but they can't see you clearly. You raise your voice, you wave your arms, but it doesn't help. The fog belongs to them, not you. No amount of explaining will fix the lens they're looking through. And the more you fight to be seen, the more invisible you feel. That's when you stop. You lower your voice, you step back into stillness, you realize their fog isn't your job to clear. You know who you are. And that's enough. Letting go doesn't mean giving up on communication. It means releasing the illusion that everyone is ready or willing to receive your truth. It means allowing others the space to misunderstand you without needing to fix it. This is hard for many men because it feels like surrender. But it's not surrender. It's control. Quiet, grounded, unwavering control over your internal state. To practice this, notice the next time you feel the urge to explain yourself. Pause. Ask, am I trying to connect or am I trying to be validated? One is healthy. The other is a subtle cry for approval. Choose the first, release the second. Then ask, what part of me feels unsafe when I'm misunderstood? That's the part that needs your attention, not their opinion. Build habits around internal validation. Write down your values. Revisit your intentions before difficult conversations. Reflect, not react. Learn to sit in silence when others twist your words. Not because you're afraid, but because you've decided that your peace is worth more than being right. The man who walks away from a misunderstanding with his calm intact holds more power than the one who wins an argument. Letting go doesn't make you cold, it makes you clean. You stop carrying what isn't yours. You stop trying to shape every perception. You live aligned with your principles, not their projections. And in doing so, you create space. Space for clarity, for strength, for growth. Not everyone will get you, that's fine. You didn't come here to be decoded. You came here to live fully and quietly on your own terms. That begins the day you stop explaining and start embodying. Not louder, just deeper. And it changes everything. 7. Make discipline your language. Discipline is not punishment. It's self-respect in action. The quiet decision to show up even when no one sees. The repeated choice to move with structure when the world pulls you in every direction. Most men speak of goals, they speak of change. But what shapes a man isn't what he says, it's what he does when nobody's watching. The mistake many make is waiting for motivation. They wait to feel ready, wait for the perfect routine, wait for the right mood. But the Stoic doesn't wait, he acts. Discipline to the Stoic is the language of mastery, the invisible thread that ties intention to reality. It's not about force or rigidity, it's about alignment. When your actions mirror your values, chaos loses its grip. The modern world teaches indulgence. Comfort is celebrated. Consistency is seen as boring, but boredom builds empires. Repetition creates power. You don't become calm, clear, and strong by accident. You become that way through structure, through rituals that don't depend on emotion, but on principle. Marcus Aurelius wrote daily, not because he felt inspired every morning, but because that was his method of anchoring himself. That was his discipline. That was his way of remembering who he was. Picture a man waking before sunrise. No alarm, no applause. He moves through the same quiet routine. Cold water on the face, a stretch, a journal. 10 minutes of silence before the noise of the world tries to pull him under. He does this not because it's glamorous, but because it grounds him. The world doesn't see this part, but this part is what makes everything else possible. Real power is boring before it becomes impressive. And to make discipline your language, you must first silence the voice that wants comfort more than clarity. That voice will tell you to skip the workout, delay the plan, and compromise just this once. But every time you follow that voice, you teach your body that emotion is the leader. The Stoic flips that. He lets reason lead. Emotion is acknowledged but not obeyed. Start small. Choose one thing to do daily, no matter how you feel. It could be 5 push-ups. It could be writing a single sentence in a notebook. It could be turning your phone off for the first hour of the day. Let that act become sacred, not because of its size, but because of its meaning. It says, I show up for myself. I do hard things quietly. I don't negotiate with weakness. Not today. This is how you become the man who doesn't need to announce that he's disciplined. His habits speak louder than his words ever could. And when things go wrong, when stress hits, when others break down, you don't collapse. You default to your system. Because discipline isn't just a path to strength. It's a shield. It protects your mind from panic, your energy from waste, and your purpose from drifting. Let your consistency speak for you. Let your quiet effort redefine who you are. When others over-explain, you execute. When others react, you repeat. When others fall apart, you fall back on your process. And day by day, without saying much, you become the man you used to admire. Not through noise, through rhythm, through presence, through the slow, steady language of discipline. 8. Own the quiet power within you. Power doesn't need to be loud. The strongest men often say the least, not because they are uncertain, but because they no longer need to convince anyone of anything. Real strength doesn't explode. It anchors. It doesn't seek attention. It radiates stillness. And until you decide to stop proving and start embodying, you'll keep wasting your energy trying to be seen, trying to be heard, trying to be respected. But the man who owns his inner power already knows. None of those are required when you're built from within. The mistake most men make is thinking they need to dominate to matter, that they must speak up in every room, fight every challenge, and correct every misunderstanding. But that kind of power burns fast. It's reactive. It leaks energy through the ego. The Stoic man is different. He doesn't perform. He doesn't posture. He walks through the world with calm authority because his power isn't borrowed. It's cultivated. He doesn't rely on being liked or feared. He relies on being grounded. This power isn't something you stumble into. It's something you return to, again and again. Through restraint, through reflection, through silence. Picture yourself standing in a stone courtyard. All around, people shout, argue, and gesture, but you remain still. You hear everything. You speak nothing, not out of fear, but out of clarity. You don't need to respond because you're already anchored. You don't fear being overlooked because your direction is inward. And that stillness, that centeredness, carries more weight than the noise ever could. Stoicism teaches us that power isn't what you show. It's what you no longer need to show. The less you chase external control, the more you master internal calm. When you stop needing to be the loudest man in the room, you become the one people notice without trying. That's the paradox. You become magnetic when you stop needing attention. You become respected when you no longer crave approval. You become powerful when your validation is rooted in self-command. To cultivate this quiet strength, begin by practicing presence. The next time you feel the urge to explain yourself, pause. Let the silence stretch. The next time you feel attacked, choose stillness. Not because you're avoiding confrontation, but because your peace matters more than your pride. Then build daily rituals that reinforce this calm. Walking without your phone, sitting with your thoughts, training your body without performance, choosing words carefully, or not at all. This isn't about withdrawal. It's about alignment. It's about acting only when it counts and doing so without emotional leakage. When you own your power, you become harder to provoke, harder to read, and harder to manipulate. You stop reacting, you start observing, and that vantage point changes everything. It's how you make better decisions. It's how you gain trust. It's how you lead, not with commands, but with example. Let the world chase visibility. You chase depth. Let others explain their value. You embody yours. Because the moment you choose quiet power over public noise, you stop being part of the chaos and start becoming the man who moves through it untouched. Not above others, but beyond distraction. And that in itself is the kind of strength that lasts, the kind that no one can take and you no longer need to prove. What you've just heard isn't theory. It's a blueprint for reclaiming your inner power, quietly, consistently, and without apology. When you decide to think less, talk less, and act with focus, you stop leaking energy into noise, overreaction, and emotional chaos. You stop living for validation and begin living with intention. This is how real self-mastery is built, not through control over others, but through control over yourself. Each principle we explored, mental clarity, stoic silence, emotional restraint, disciplined habits, and quiet strength, is a daily practice, not a performance. You don't need to change your personality. You need to choose your direction. That choice begins every morning. It begins when you filter what deserves your attention, when you pause before reacting, when you protect your mind from mental clutter, and when you act with stillness rather than impulse. You already have the strength. You just have to stop handing it away. One quiet boundary at a time, one clear decision at a time. Over time, this becomes who you are, a man who doesn't chase control but embodies it. A man who doesn't need to raise his voice to lead. A man who doesn't rely on being understood to stand tall. Let this be your reset. Let this be the moment you no longer give your energy to what doesn't serve you. Train your mind to stay calm. Practice stillness under pressure. Speak less, but with weight. Live less through reaction, more through purpose. Every day is a chance to begin again, stronger, simpler, and more grounded. If this message resonates, share your story below. How are you reclaiming your power? What quiet change are you starting today? Your words might be exactly what another man needs to read.